Welcome back to the channel Coins Collector, coin enthusiasts and curious collectors. If you're fascinated by the stories hidden behind rare coins and the treasure that might be lurking in your pocket change, then you're in the right place. Today, we're diving deep into the incredible story of a small but mighty coin, the 1980 Liberty 1-cent coin, a coin that's blown away expectations with a jaw-dropping estimated value of $490,000. That's right. This tiny penny, often overlooked and passed around in everyday transactions, can actually be worth nearly $500,000 due to a combination of minting errors, rare characteristics, and collector demand that has turned it into a legendary find. Stick around as we explore what makes this coin so extraordinary, why it differs so drastically from its face value, and what details you should be looking for if you ever come across one. Let's start with the basics. The 1980 Liberty 1-cent coin is part of the Lincoln Cent series, which has been produced by the United States Mint since 1909. The obverse side of the coin features the profile of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, and the reverse displays the Lincoln Memorial. At first glance, the 1980 penny doesn't look all that different from other pennies minted in the late 20th century. However, what sets this coin apart is not its design, but rather the rare mistakes that occurred during its production. These errors are what skyrocket the coin's value far beyond its humble 1-cent denomination. One of the most remarkable factors contributing to the high value of this particular coin is the presence of minting errors. Minting errors can occur during any stage of the coin production process, and when they do, they can result in coins that are extremely rare. The more unusual and rare the error, the more valuable the coin tends to be. In the case of the 1980 Liberty 1-cent coin, some of these errors include dramatic die cracks, double dies, off-center strikes, and repunched mint marks. Each of these errors adds a layer of uniqueness and scarcity to the coin, making it highly desirable among collectors. Take, for instance, the double die error. This occurs when the coin die is impressed with the design more than once in slightly different positions. When this happens, it can cause doubling of images or inscriptions, particularly noticeable in areas like the word Liberty, the date, 1980, or the phrase, "In God We Trust." Coins with clear, visible doubling are rare and can fetch thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, of dollars depending on the prominence and clarity of the error. In some rare cases, coins with this specific double die feature have been auctioned for staggering amounts due to their extremely limited number. Another valuable error that's been found on some 1980 pennies is the off-center strike. When a coin isn't perfectly aligned during the striking process, it can result in an off-center design. Depending on how misaligned the strike is, especially if it's around 50% off-center and still shows the date, the value can increase significantly. Such a noticeable minting mistake not only makes the coin more intriguing but also extremely rare, which drives up collector demand. Repunched mint marks are yet another interesting feature that has been found on some 1980 pennies. In earlier years, mint marks were added to the die by hand, and sometimes they would be punched in the wrong spot or at the wrong angle. If the engraver corrected it by punching over the mark again, the result is a repunched mint mark. This error is particularly exciting for collectors because it reflects a hands-on aspect of coin production, highlighting a human element in what is typically a mechanical process. Coins with this kind of error, especially if well preserved, often receive higher grades from grading services and attract high bids at auctions. Now, let's talk about the mint marks themselves. In 1980, the United States Mint produced pennies at multiple facilities, primarily Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The coins from these mints are distinguished by a small letter below the date, no mark for Philadelphia, D for Denver, and an S for San Francisco. Most regular 1980 pennies from any of these mints are very common and only worth face value unless they have some sort of error or are in exceptional condition. However, there are some fascinating anomalies when it comes to the mint marks that make certain 1980 pennies worth a fortune. Some collectors and dealers have discovered 1980 pennies that appear to have mint marks that don't match up with expected production records, such as a San Francisco proof coin with unexpected characteristics or a Denver minted penny with features normally reserved for proof coins. These oddities have sparked debate and excitement in the numismatic world, with some experts suggesting that a limited number of experimental or transitional coins may have been struck and inadvertently released into circulation. If these coins do exist, and evidence suggests that at least a few do, they could be among the rarest Lincoln cents ever made, explaining the nearly $500,000 valuation some of them have achieved at auctions. Of course, condition plays a major role in determining a coin's value. A coin that is uncirculated or in mint state condition is typically far more valuable than one that's been passed around in pockets for decades. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with higher numbers indicating better condition. A 1980 penny with rare errors that also scores a grade of MS 67 or higher can command astounding prices from collectors who want the best of the best. There are reports of some high-grade error coins selling for six-figure sums due to their pristine condition combined with unique characteristics. Beyond technical minting errors, what makes this coin especially interesting is the human story behind it. Errors on coins are often a result of a fast-paced, high-volume manufacturing environment where even the smallest mistake can have major consequences. The 1980s were a busy time for the U.S. Mint, with millions upon millions of coins being struck daily. Under such pressure, it's easy to see how errors might slip through, and yet it's precisely these errors that have turned some coins into historical treasures. Collectors cherish these pieces not just for their monetary value, but because they offer a tangible glimpse into the quirks and imperfections of a massive industrial system. But how can you tell if you've got one of these rare and valuable coins? First, take a close look at your 1980 pennies. You'll want to check the mint mark under the date, look for any doubling of letters or numbers, examine the coin's alignment for signs of off-center striking, and inspect the edges and surfaces for die cracks or odd textures. If you think you've found something unusual, it's always a good idea to consult with a professional coin dealer or send your coin to a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication and evaluation. The cost of grading is small compared to the potential return if your coin turns out to be one of the rare gems worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Another factor to consider is provenance, basically, where the coin came from and how it's been handled. Coins that come from old collections, rolls that have never been searched, or original bank-wrapped rolls from the 1980s may contain higher-grade examples with potential errors that were never discovered. Sometimes it's just a matter of luck and timing. People have found valuable coins in pocket change, jars of old coins from grandparents, or even while sorting coins from vending machine returns. So if you've got a stash of old coins lying around, it's definitely worth taking a closer look. It's also important to remember that the world of rare coins isn't just about cold, hard cash. For many collectors, it's about the thrill of the hunt, the joy of discovery, and the satisfaction of learning about a piece of history that most people overlook. The 1980 Liberty 1-cent coin is a perfect example of how something small and seemingly insignificant can turn out to be a hidden gem. It reminds us to pay attention to the details, to look twice, and to appreciate the craftsmanship and complexity behind something as ordinary as a penny. Today's topic. Make sure you stay with us through the entire video, because we're going to unravel the story of a very special 1-cent coin, the 2016 D. Lincoln penny, also referred to as the Liberty 1-cent coin, that has shocked the coin-collecting world by selling for as much as $3,000, despite its face value being only a single cent now. At first glance, this 2016 D penny might look like any other coin you find rolling around in your junk drawer, wallet, or even lying forgotten in your car's cup holder. It features the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, the date 2016 struck into the lower right, and of course, the small D mint mark just below the year, indicating that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. On the reverse, you'll see the Union Shield design that was introduced in 2010, which replaced the Lincoln Memorial reverse design that had been in use for decades. So what makes this coin so incredibly special? How does a penny that was mass-produced in the billions somehow end up being worth thousands of dollars? The answer lies in a series of minting errors, die varieties, and other unique characteristics that have made certain examples of this coin extremely desirable to collectors. Not all 2016 D pennies are valuable, of course, most of them are only worth their face value. But a rare few contain mistakes that occurred during the minting process that catapult their value into the thousands. Let's begin with the basics. In 2016, the U.S. Mint produced over 4.5 billion Lincoln cents at the Denver Mint alone. That is an absolutely massive number, which should in theory mean that every single coin produced would be essentially identical and therefore not particularly rare. But in such large-scale production, mistakes can and do happen. And sometimes, those mistakes slip past quality control and end up in circulation, eventually discovered by sharp-eyed collectors or even casual users. It's these error coins that become the stuff of legend in the numismatic world. One of the most significant errors found on some examples of the 2016 D penny is a double die. A double die error occurs during the creation of the dies that are used to strike coins. If the die receives a second impression that is slightly misaligned with the first, then every coin struck with that die will show doubled elements. On the 2016 D penny, examples have been discovered with clear doubling in the inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," as well as the date and even Lincoln's profile. These doubling errors can be subtle or very dramatic, depending on how far the two impressions were misaligned. When the doubling is clear and strong, especially if it's visible to the naked eye, it adds significant value to the coin. Another important factor contributing to the high value of these error pennies is the mint mark placement and associated anomalies. The D mint mark on the 2016 D penny is supposed to be cleanly and correctly placed. But in some error coins, the mint mark is misaligned, faint, repunched, or even missing entirely. A repunched mint mark, RPM, is a specific variety in which the mint mark was stamped more than once, resulting in a visible overlapping or shadowing effect. These RPMs can be very subtle and often require magnification to spot, but trained collectors know exactly what to look for. When a repunched mint mark occurs, it typically indicates that the coin was struck using an older die or that there was a hiccup during the hand-punching process. While modern coins are generally more automated than older coins, these anomalies can still occur, and when they do, they tend to spike interest among collectors. In some cases, the error is even more dramatic. For example, off-center strikes have been reported on 2016 D pennies. An off-center strike happens when the planchet, or blank coin, is not properly aligned within the coining press. This results in a coin where the design is shifted, sometimes dramatically, leaving part of the coin blank. Depending on how far off the strike is, and whether the date and mint mark remain visible, these coins can command a high premium. A 10% or 15% off-center error might be interesting, but not overly valuable. But when you get into 50% or more off-center strikes, and the essential details like the date and mint mark are still visible, then you're talking about a potential value of hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Another error that can increase the value of a 2016 D penny is a die crack or die break. Over time, the dies that strike coins can develop small cracks due to the immense pressure and stress they endure. When a coin is struck with a cracked die, metal can fill the crack, resulting in raised lines on the surface of the coin. These lines are sometimes referred to as die breaks or even cuds when they are large enough to cause a chunk of the design to be missing or obscured. While small die cracks are relatively common and might not add much value, larger and more dramatic ones, especially when they are unusual or appear in striking locations, can be of significant interest to collectors. Then there's the possibility of coins being struck on the wrong planchet. In very rare cases, a penny might be struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or even a foreign coin. For instance, a penny struck on a dime planchet would be smaller and thinner than normal, and its design might be incomplete. These kinds of wrong planchet errors are extremely rare and often caught early in the minting process, but when they slip through the cracks and end up in circulation, they can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Another type of error to look for is a broad strike. This occurs when the retaining collar that normally shapes the coin's edge fails, allowing the metal to expand beyond its intended boundaries. Broad-struck coins appear wider and flatter than normal, with no rim or edge reading. On a penny, this results in a very distinctive look that's immediately recognizable to collectors. These errors, too, can boost a coin's value significantly, especially when combined with other anomalies like doubling or a repunched mint mark. collectors also closely examine the surfaces of these coins for signs of planchet flaws, such as laminations or improper alloy mixtures. A lamination error happens when a piece of the coin's metal peels away or separates, usually due to impurities or contaminants in the metal. These coins often look like they have flakes or cracks running across the surface. Improper alloy mixtures can cause discoloration or odd textures on the coin surface, which are also of interest to specialists in error coin collecting. So why do collectors place such a high value on these mistake coins? The answer comes down to rarity, demand, and the thrill of the hunt. Coin collecting is driven by a combination of history, artistry, and scarcity. When a coin has a known and verified error, and especially when it's one of a kind or one of only a few known examples, it becomes highly sought after. In the case of the 2016 D penny, some specimens with clear doubling, dramatic off-center strikes, or other unusual features have sold at auction for $1,000, $2,000, and even up to $3,000. That's an extraordinary return on a coin that originally cost just a penny to own. It's also worth mentioning that the condition of the coin plays a massive role in determining its value. A coin that's in mint state condition, meaning it shows no signs of wear and has its original luster, will always be worth more than one that's been heavily circulated, even if both have the same error. Collectors and grading services like PCGS and NGC assign numerical grades to coins, with higher numbers representing better preservation. A 2016 D penny with a dramatic error in MS67 or MS68 condition could fetch a truly impressive price. For those of you interested in finding one of these treasures, it's not entirely out of the question. Error coins like the valuable 2016 D penny can still be found in circulation today, especially if you regularly search through rolls of coins from your local bank or even just pay close attention to your change. It takes a sharp eye and a little bit of luck, but these valuable finds are out there. Many seasoned collectors started their journey by discovering just one special coin, and from there, the hobby turned into a lifelong passion. To give you a sense of just how rare and exciting these finds are, consider that thousands of people regularly search penny rolls for errors, and only a handful ever come across these highly valuable varieties. It's like panning for gold. Most of the material you sift through will be common and unremarkable, but every so often, you find that one nugget that makes all the effort worthwhile.